Hello again to everyone and welcome to the Abroad at AU pre-arrival orientation. Based on the chat, I'll wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening because it sounds like we are pretty much spanning the globe here, which is very exciting. So we are going to get started. Thank you all again for coming and let's kick this off. So we're going to start with introductions, but before we go through who each person is, we just want to wave at you for a quick second. We won't keep our camera on the entire time, but we do want you to know that we're all sitting here together. Hi! Can you see? It's hiding back here. So this isn't a recording. We're actually sitting here entertaining your questions and looking forward to going through an overview of the Abroad at AU program with all of you. So to get started, I'll have Sarah introduce herself to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm the Assistant Director for the Abroad at AU program, and I handle home institutions in Asia, the Americas, Europe, and Oceania. The one exception for Asia would be Japan, and Ethan will introduce himself in just a minute.
All right, hi guys, my name is Desiree Maruka and I am the incoming student advisor for home institutions in the United Kingdom, Ireland, Turkey, and the Middle East. So if you go to school in an institution that is in one of those countries, I will be your advisor for next term.
And hi guys, I'm Ethan Merritt. I'm the incoming student advisor for all you guys coming from Japan. Can't wait to see you in the fall.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Holst and I am the program assistant, and I am in charge of the AU Buddy program and all of our special events that we have throughout the semester, which I'm going to tell you a little more about in a few minutes.
All right, so while we're on this page, you'll see at the bottom we have our email highlighted for you. So the email for our entire office is abroad@au@american.edu. And the reason we highlight this email is for two reasons. One, this is the best way to get in contact with anyone in our office because all of us are checking this email. We're just a little going through it all the time, so you're going to get a quicker answer if you're sending something directly to us versus somewhere else that needs to be forwarded. With that said, if you have a question about bill payment or course registration, housing, things that are taking place for your semester, it's much better for you to email us first and let us send you to another department on campus if needed. Oftentimes, our students will try and email the school directly or the housing office directly, and that email ends up just getting forwarded back to us for us to answer. So it's much more likely you'll get a quick answer if you just write to us first and let us answer your question or send you out somewhere else. If you've been getting automated emails from the application site, those are coming from a different email, so please don't reply back to those. Make sure you're going into the abroad@au@american.edu email. You all should have gotten at least a couple emails from that specific email already, so feel free to just go back to one of those, click reply, and send us any questions or concerns you might have. We will talk about one exception to this rule, and that is going to be for health and health insurance related questions, and we'll get to that later on in the presentation. But for the most part, please be sending all of your questions to abroad@au@american.edu. All right, so our agenda for today is going to be visa and travel plans, housing, health insurance and immunizations, course selection and registration, Abroad at AU events, and orientation. As a note, we are recording this presentation right now and we'll be emailing it out to you all as a video, so you don't need to feel too overwhelmed to be writing everything down and getting all the information off of every single slide. Of course, you're welcome to take notes and be taking things down, but please just know that we will be sending it out to you and you'll be able to go back and review anything that we've covered or said during this presentation, so you don't need to be too concerned as we're going through. During the presentation, we will be taking questions from the chat box. It looks like almost all of you have already said hello and found out how to use that chat box. So if you have questions about something we're talking about, please feel free at any point just to put them into the chat box and we will answer them as appropriate. If it's a question that is related to something we've already covered or we might be covering in the future, or it's unrelated to what we're talking about right then, we'll save it for the end. We are going to have a section for questions at the very end of the presentation, but know that if you type it in there, we are going to see it and you don't need to be worried that we're going to miss answering it for you later on. So to get started, the first thing we're going to talk about is your J1 visa and travel information.
All right, so we're going to actually start with the J1 visa. And just not everybody has been admitted to the program yet. The vast majority of you have been. But if you have not been, just note we are working to get through those acceptances. And we hope to get them mostly out certainly by early next week. So don't be concerned if you have not yet been admitted. You are not the only one. But we, as a part of the acceptance process, will be putting together your J visa support documents. If you are not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident in the United States, you will be required to have a visa to study abroad at AU. And as a part of our program, we do require a J1 visa. I know some of your friends who have come to the United States might have been on a different visa. You will be on a J1 visa. Once we get these, and we expect them to go out in the next 2 to 3 weeks in most cases, we will send them directly to the international office at your home institution. Once you get that acceptance packet from the international office, please be sure to follow all those directions really closely in your acceptance packet. It's very detailed. It comes from our own international office at AU, and it spells out exactly what you need to do to get your J1 visa. You will be required to go to a visa interview at some kind of consulate somewhere. Before you do that, you need to make sure that you pay a fee, a CBIS fee. And again, you'll find out more exactly how to do all of that once you get your support documents in the mail. But you can already at this point start looking at the requirements for your specific consulate on what they need, because various consulates need different materials. The first day that you'll be able to enter the United States on your J1 visa is July 30th, 2016. I know some students want to travel around the United States and all of that before they actually start classes, but please note that you will not be allowed to enter the United States on your J1 visa before July 30th. Some students say, oh, but I have a visitor visa. I can enter on that. If you do that, you'll still have to leave the U.S. and come back in on your J visa, so we suggest you not do that. If you want to travel around the United States, plan to do so after July 30th. If you're here for the fall semester only, your fall visa will expire on December 19th. And you'll have 30 days after that to travel around the United States or finish up everything before you leave. And if you're here for the academic year, your visas will expire on May 9th. Again, you'll have 30 days before you leave. Don't plan your trips in a way that has you going back outside to, say, Canada or Mexico or a different country and then coming back into the United States to leave, unless you have some kind of visa to get back into the United States after those end dates. Okay. When you're traveling to the United States, you'll see this lovely document. It's a DS 2019. This is the document that will be sent to you in your acceptance packet. Please be sure you bring your original DS 2019 along with your passport and visa when you come to the United States. The immigration people in the airport will not accept a copy of this document. You do need the original. So be sure once you leave the embassy with this document that you do not lose it, because you may not be able to enter the United States with it. As far as travel plans, I've already said some of the dates. Again, most of those should have been in your acceptance emails or will be in your acceptance emails if you're haven't gotten them yet. If you plan to live on campus, which Desiree will talk a little bit more about in a little bit, the dorms don't open until Saturday, August 20th at 9 a.m. So if you are actually living in the dorms, which probably many of you will not be, but if you are, you can't enter the dorms before that time. You certainly can come to the United States before that time, but you will have to find your own place to stay before August 20th. If you're living off campus, we really recommend that you arrive a week or two early just to get settled. Not only necessarily to find your place, but also to make sure you have all the furniture you want and all your supplies. Because then you don't have to worry about doing that during orientation week. We will have mandatory orientation the 21st, 3rd, and 24th. But we suggest you arrive on the 20th or 21st to get settled before the orientation. We'll have optional orientation trips and things where you can meet both American University students and other abroad at AU students. If you're leaving or living in the dorms, you must leave by December 20th at noon.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about in our session is housing. We will start first with on-campus housing, and our first really important note about campus housing is that for fall 2016, it is extremely, extremely limited, and it is most likely that very few of you will be living on campus for next semester or next year. This is an American University-wide issue, so they are just pretty much out of space in terms of campus housing. So if you are offered campus housing, we just want to make a note that you will need to complete a separate accommodation application in order to apply and be given a space on campus. That application will be emailed out to you as soon as we have it from Housing and Dining. And again, we don't expect for very many students to be offered housing. So we will talk more about off-campus housing in our next slide. The application for Housing and Dining does require that you have your MyAU portal login created. So if you haven't done that yet, please note that you will need to do this as soon as possible and definitely before you are trying to fill out that separate accommodation application. Details for creating your login are included on your application, so go through those required readings and make sure you're setting that up if you need to. So our next option for housing is off-campus housing. So why would you live off-campus? Well, there's several reasons outside of the fact that you may have to because you aren't able to get a spot on campus. Our students have also suggested that it's a really great idea to live off-campus if you are over the age of 21. So 21 is the legal drinking age in the United States. However, American University as a campus is a dry campus. What this means is that even if you are legally able to drink, there is no alcohol allowed anywhere on campus, especially and including the residence halls. So even if you are 21, you are not allowed to have any alcohol on campus or be in the presence of alcohol on campus. Additionally, American University is a smoke-free and tobacco-free campus, which means there is no smoking allowed anywhere on campus or in the residence halls or in the areas right outside of them. So that is one of the main things we hear from students in terms of benefits to living off campus is that they are not having to follow those rules if they are over the age of 21. Other things about living off campus, you get a roommate preference. You can sort of choose how many people you want to live with, what kinds of people you want to live with, things like that. You also have more preference of the room that you want, especially if you're looking for a single. You will not get a single space on campus most likely. So a lot of students find that when they live off campus, they're able to have their own rooms and they really enjoy that. Additionally, there are really strict rules and times on campus. So if you are looking to arrive early or stay a little bit later, that would be a benefit to having a location that is off campus. So when we say off campus, we don't mean kilometers and miles away. There are tons of options for you right here near American University. Almost all of our upperclassmen live off campus who are regular full-time AU students, so there's tons of different apartment buildings and houses and different style housing, and one of the best resources we have that students have benefited from in the past is the off-campus housing guide. This can be found on your application under required readings once you have been moved over into accepted status. Reading through here will just give you some information in terms of what kinds of neighborhoods to look for, what kinds of places advertise housing, things like that, and different resources that other AU students have found to be really helpful in locating their housing. A lot of this includes the following information, but I'm just going to say it to you anyway. That way, as you're doing your research, you're kind of familiar with some of these names and locations. So two of the closest apartment buildings to campus are called the Berks, or the Berkshire Apartments, and the Avalon. So a lot of the postings you'll see will be for these two buildings. With that said, there are tons of different locations and apartments in the surrounding neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods you might hear include Tenleytown, which is AU's metro stop, Glover Park, Cleveland Park, Friendship Heights, and AU Park. And again, these are going to be located in your off-campus housing guide, but I just wanted to say them to you so you are familiar with them. The other resource for you are these Facebook groups. As you can see in our picture to the left-hand side, there are multiple different Facebook groups for specifically housing and subletting here at American University. So some of them are called Housing, Housing and Sublet AU, and AU Housing. As you can see in the picture, the way that this works is you would join. This is a group that is run for and by American University students. Once a group of students gets an apartment, they see how many roommates they have, how many they need, and they might post and say, we're looking for one extra roommate or two extra roommates for their own room or to share a room. A lot of times there will be pictures. It might have some specifications. For this one, for example, is looking for females only. It'll have the price, so you can kind of scroll through and see what you might be interested in for next year. In addition to looking at things that are already posted, there is also an option to post yourself. So you could go on and say, you know, hi, I'm an incoming student from Germany. I'll be at American University for the fall semester, and I'm looking for XYZ in a room on, you know, close to campus or within 15 minutes of campus, things like that. Another two resources I'm just going to hit on that are on this page are a 1617 Abroad at AU Facebook page. So we'll talk about this later on in the presentation, but we will be adding you all to a joint Facebook page that you can kind of use to get to know each other and to write and have some share information. So if you want to get together and kind of be a Abroad at AU cohort team in terms of finding housing, it's really helpful if you find an apartment and they're looking for one more roommate to go ahead and reach out to other Abroad at AU students and see what people have found to be successful or what they might have heard of or places they may have seen are offering a space. And finally, almost all of you are from institutions where students have come to American University in the past as Abroad at AU students, and they are a really great resource for you just to talk to them about how they found their housing, you know, where they were living. If their current roommate is looking for someone, that would be a really great spot for you. We've had some apartments that are being passed down sort of from group to group as students keep coming in the fall and spring and then the following year. So they're going to be another awesome group for you to kind of tap into if you know anyone who has been an Abroad at AU student before. Yep, so the final thing I'll say before jumping over to these questions we've gotten is that some students do find it's easiest to actually locate their housing once they're here, and as Sarah mentioned, coming a week or two before orientation starts is a good time to kind of be looking at a few apartments and maybe committing to one for this semester. I know that feels very late, and that can be a little bit you know, make you a little bit anxious to wait until August, but that is really has been successful for students in the past. Right now, if you were to get onto these Facebook groups, it's still very early for AU students to be thinking about next year's housing. And that just goes to show that there are tons of opportunities available and no one is feeling extremely pressured at this time. So if you go on now, you're probably going to see a lot of postings for summer. That's fine. The fall ones are coming, I promise. Closer to May, June, July, that's going to be when students are really finalizing their plans for next year and putting out postings for students to live with them and things like that. So you've got some time ahead of you. Of course, let us know if you have any questions, but right now your best bet is to just be doing research, reading through these guides, finding out where you might want to live and what kind of apartment or room you might want, and then as those posts become available later on, reaching out and making those plans for housing. Okay, so we've got a couple questions. When would we know if we are offered on campus. So we are expecting to know in the next couple of weeks, about 2 weeks, if you are going to be offered on-campus housing. If you are one of those people, we will be sending an email to you directly. Who gets offered on-campus housing? Is it random?
It is not a random process. It has mostly to do with agreements that we have with your institutions. There are a few institutions which we are contractually obligated to offer housing to their students, so we have to offer that first. And then after that, it's students who historically from various institutions that we know need more support. So sometimes that might be age or something like that, or a variety of reasons. So it is not random, but we will certainly let you know in the next probably about 2 weeks. Again, we're working with the Housing and Dining Office to find out for sure.
All right, so 2 good questions about housing. And again, let us know as we're moving through if you have any questions about the things we are discussing.
Okay, we're going to move on from talking about housing issues to health issues. The first of which we're going to talk about immunizations. So as a law in the District of Columbia, you are required to have certain immunizations if you're attending American University or any university for that matter in DC. And because of that, you will need to prove that you have actually had these. So there will be a form that is linked through your Abroad at AU application, which you see right here. That's you will need to print out, bring to your healthcare provider, and they will need to sign it and date it. Again, this can be found in the mandatory immunization form material in your Abroad at AU application. This is one of the few circumstances in which if you have questions, you should not email us directly. If you have questions about your immunizations, directly send them to the Student Health Center. Since we're not doctors, we probably won't be your best option as far as answering those. So their email address is on the screen. It's shc@american.edu. And they should be, they're pretty good about handling questions about anything you have about shots. You will need to send this directly to the AU Student Health Center. Some students send it through the mail, some can submit it online or electronically. But please note it is due on July 15th, which is before you are arriving on campus. So please start thinking about printing this out and getting this sent along and on time. If you do not have your immunizations, you may not get your transcript and your grades might be withheld. So this is really important that you do this. In the United States and at AU, there might be some specific immunizations that you're required to get that you haven't gotten in the past at your home country because it's not all that common. If that's the case, you can certainly get it right now, or if in the case of something like the chicken pox you've had, they can do a test to see if you've actually had it and they'll put the date on when you've had it. If there's something that you haven't gotten yet that you need to get and it's a series of shots, you can start those shots in your home country, but you are required to finish them while you're in the United States. But the shots in the United States will probably cost some money, so be prepared to pay that as well. Instructions on how to actually submit this form will be on the first page of the form.
All right, so moving from immunizations to AU health insurance. It is also a requirement of American University that all students are covered by a health insurance policy that meets very specific criteria, which we will review on the next slide. We do highly recommend that you go ahead and enroll in the AU health insurance policy, and we say that for several reasons. First of all, If you do enroll in this policy, it's administered directly by our Student Health Center on campus, so you have resources and experts available to you very easily. So you can walk into the Student Health Center, ask some of your questions, and have them answered directly by a representative of the policy here on campus. Additionally, the health insurance world and healthcare system in the United States itself is very complex and highly expensive. As you may have heard, healthcare is pretty different in the U.S. compared probably to most of the home countries that you will be traveling from. So in order to kind of just make sure that you are fully covered and everything is taken care of, we do recommend that you use the AU health insurance. There have been students in the past who have waived the AU health insurance in light of another policy that they found, and then when they had an issue, unfortunately realized that it did not cover all of the criteria that they thought it did. And they have been left with huge medical expenses from having to visit the emergency room or a specialist in the United States. So we hope, of course, that that doesn't happen to you, but should you need medical attention, we want to make sure that you are covered by a policy that's going to meet your needs while you are here in the U.S. Additionally, if you do have the AU health insurance, then your primary doctor, your main physician while in the United States, would be right here on campus in the Student Health Center, which would be another benefit to you. Specific questions about the policy and whether your policy might cover something, or specifically what the AU health policy covers, things like that, is again another exception to the rule. So you should be emailing those questions directly to the Student Health Center, because they're going to be able to answer those questions, things like that. You do need to enroll in the AU health insurance by September 19th, 2016. So to answer your question, Renee, you can wait until you get to campus and talk to someone from the health center, have a meeting, things like that, if you need some more details before you want to fully enroll. So you've got a little bit more time here than you did with the immunization form. So it's very important, however, that you do either enroll or waive, which we'll talk about on the next slide, that insurance by September 19th so that it is done by the deadline. Yep. The other thing we just want to mention about the AU health insurance policy is that it can seem very expensive, and a lot of students see it on their bill and they immediately want to get out of it, and they are confused as to why it's so costly. Unfortunately, that is just a reality of the United States healthcare system. Again, you will find when you start looking at other policies and other plans that for the requirements that we have, that AU has, and that your immigration documents require, this is actually a very affordable standard price for an insurance that covers all of the things that the AU health insurance covers. If you are a fall 2016 student only and you are only here for one semester and not the full year, it is university rule that you need to enroll in insurance for the entire year. So you will be paying for the entire year up front in your fall bill. However, since you will be leaving for the spring semester, you will get a refund for the remaining insurance that you aren't going to use. So you need to be covered for the whole year, and then what happens is around November, we will send a list to the health center saying these students are only fall semester students. We confirm that they will be leaving and do not need to be covered for the next year, at which point a refund will be issued directly to your student account. So you will be paying for insurance for the whole year right up, and if you're staying for the whole year, then you'll be using it, and if you're only staying for the fall semester, you will get a refund for the rest of that insurance that you obviously aren't going to use after you've left the United States. All right.
Having said all of that, if you do have and want to use alternative health insurance while you're in the United States, there is a waiver process that you can use. That will be due September 19th. So basically, you either have to submit that waiver by September 19th, or you have to enroll by September 19th. In order to do the waiver, it's a two-step process. First, there are certain requirements that the U.S. government has for all J-1 visa holders. These specific requirements are listed in your health insurance document in your AU Abroad application, Abroad at AU application. Additionally, in your acceptance packet, you will get a form that specifically asks you questions about the alternative health insurance that you would like to use, that you will have to fill in, complete, and send back to our International Student and Scholar Services office if you want to waive the health insurance. Of course, AU insurance covers all these J-1 visa requirements, so you do not have to worry about it. If you meet all the J-1 visa requirements and you still want to, and you want to waive your insurance, then you would go to step 2, which is making sure you meet all of AU requirements. While most of these requirements are the same or similar, they are not all the same. For instance, AU does require that you have an office in the United States where you could submit your claims. First, again, do step 1, make sure you meet all your your health insurance actually meets all those requirements. Then you do step 2 and make sure it meets all the AU requirements. If you've made it through all of that and you still want to waive your health insurance, you are more than welcome to do so, and that's on your My AU portal. And we give you instructions on how to do that in your health insurance document on your Abroad at AU application.
All right, so we don't see any questions for health insurance, so we will keep moving on. One of the more exciting parts of this presentation will be courses and registration, so we know all of you are excited to look at the classes and the things you might be taking in class while you're here at AU. So the first steps to being able to register are located in the middle of our circle here. The first thing you need to do, if you haven't already, is pay your $500 deposit. When you received your acceptance email, it gave you the deadline for sending in that deposit, so make sure you're doing that as soon as possible so that we can move forward with the remaining steps. If you haven't yet been admitted, as Sarah said, we are hoping to get those out in the next few days. So you'll have your deadline and your information on how to pay your deposit as soon as you receive that acceptance email. So once you are moved over into accepted on your application, then some new required readings will appear. You want to make sure you are reading the documents titled Course Selection, Waitlist, and Register for Courses. These are again on your online application, and they're going to go in more depth what each of these next steps are going to be, and just give you a broad overview of the way course selection and clearances and everything like that works for American University. After you've read all of these, you're going to do your course selection. You're going to give us your clearance form, which we'll talk about, and then the final step will be actually registering for those classes. So looking at the courses and things you'll be taking while at American University. Our first note is that you must register for 12 credits, even if you do not get into your top class choices, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. We just wanted to highlight the fact that you do need to be in a minimum of 12 credits. For your immigration status as a student, it's required that you are a full-time student at university, and 12 credits at American University is considered full-time for one term. When you're looking at classes, you're going to see several different course levels. 100 and 200 level courses are introductory. Those are usually taken in your first 2 years of university, or it's a class you will take if you're taking something in a subject for the very first time. So if you are a business major at your home university, but you want to take an elective course at AU in psychology, if you have no background in psychology whatsoever, then you would be looking at 100 and 200 level courses in that subject. 300 and 400 level classes are going to be more advanced coursework, so they'll often have prerequisite classes of those foundational 100 and 200 levels, and those are going to be taken in your 3rd and 4th year of university. So if you are a major in international relations and you've already been studying that for 1 or 2 years, then you would want to be looking at more advanced coursework that could be relevant to what you want to study in your actual degree. 500 level classes are taken in your final year of university, and they may be closed to abroad at AU students depending on the class and the topic and the prerequisites that are required for those classes. So definitely be looking really carefully at what is required in order to be taking classes at a 500 level. Anything above 500 is going to be a graduate level course, and those are not available to abroad at AU students in our program, and they're not available to any undergraduate students at AU. There is one exception to this rule, and that is if you are a student who is working with Jo Lee directly in the Kogod School of Business, and you're doing your course selection directly with her. She will have different potentially placements for you in Kogod. So definitely be talking to Jo Lee specifically if you have been working with her for your classes for next term. And finally, you cannot register for restricted courses or internships for credit. And I will be talking about what those are on this page. So on our Abroad at AU website, we do have a page called Course Restrictions. Specifically, you need to be reviewing this page if you are interested in taking classes in the School of Communication, the School of International Service, and Kogod School of Business. These schools specifically have restrictions for abroad at AU students, so you just want to make sure you're reading through them and understanding what classes you are and are not allowed to take. If you want to take communications classes, especially, you need to really make sure you're paying attention to the list of classes that you are allowed to choose from. The abroad at AU students have a specific list of courses that are approved for them, and you want to compare that with what classes are being offered in the fall semester when choosing your classes. There are also university-wide program restrictions, so if a course is listed as honors or mentorship or a specific program, it will say limited to students in the university honors program, something like that. Those are course restrictions, again, for the entire university, so they're only for students who are in those special programs, and those are smaller classes that are offered just for students in those programs, so you would not be able to take those specific classes. And then there are also school restrictions, so sometimes there may be certain sections of a class that are restricted to only students who are majoring in that school at American University. So if it says something like only open to students in SIS, then that would be restricted for abroad at AU students, and again, that's going to be a university-wide rule. It's not just against you guys, it's for everyone who's an undergraduate student who isn't in those specific programs. And then finally, if you are interested in taking a language course at AU, and there are several different types of languages offered, then you will need to take a placement test in order to take any language class here at AU. The link for that test is available in the course selection document on your application, which you would have already been reading in order to meet the first steps we talked about on the last slide. There is an exception to this language rule, and that is if you want to take elementary level 1, meaning you have absolutely no background in the language and you just want to start from the very beginning, then obviously you don't need to take a placement test because your placement will be no prior experience. So you are welcome to register for any of those classes that don't have a prereq because they are obviously at the very beginning level. So we've got a couple questions. So how many courses are 12 credits? So that actually depends. Courses at AU do range from usually I would say about 1 to 4. There's the occasional 5 credit class, but it's unlikely that you would be taking that. So the average person would be taking 4 3-credit classes. So by far the most common is going to be a 3-credit class, so that would be about 4 classes. But again, there are some exceptions to that rule, and you may be taking 1 2-credit class and 1 1-credit class, and then 3 3-credit classes. You can kind of make up those 12 credits however you would like to do that. We have another question here that says, are internships outside AU not allowed at all? So you can do academic training, and we will talk about that during orientation and during our immigration overview when you arrive to campus, but you cannot do them for credit. So you are not allowed to do an internship course while here at American University, and that's an immigration policy that is in place. So that would be the answer for your internship. And then are AU abroad students that follow honors program at their home allowed to join AU's honors program? Unfortunately not. This is a very specific program for AU honors. It's really limited. I think there's only about 100 undergraduate students, so those classes are usually capped at very small capacities, and so unfortunately they're not open to any students, even if you are in an honors program at your home university. I'm doing a double degree, so I might need more credit. Could I do that? So that depends on your situation. So you have to have a minimum of 12 credits, and some of you may be able to do more credits than that. It could cost a little bit more. It really depends on what your agreement with American University is. So if you have any special questions about that, feel free to email us. Also, when we do your course registration, we will let you know what your maximum number of credits can be. So we will put that in your email when you get cleared for your courses, which we'll actually talk about in a couple slides. So good questions, and we'll be able to give you a little bit of a better answer once we know specifically what your situation in your home university is. All right, so moving on, the next thing I'm going to cover quickly is just finding the course schedule. So actually being able to see all of the great classes that AU is offering for next semester. The course schedule is available on the University Registrar page, and the best way to get to it is to really simply just Google American University's schedule of classes. You can go to this website that's listed here, but it comes up just as easily through Google. I do it every day about 16 times. So the very first link that will come up is going to bring you to this main page. From here, you'll click Fall 2016 as your semester, and then you can scroll through your subject. So things that you'll see in the subject might be accounting for business or communication, if you want to take a course in that, psychology, mathematics, there's a whole list of things. So you'll choose which subject you're interested in taking, and then you'll click Browse Subject. When you do that, it's going to bring up this image you see here on your right-hand side. So what we've selected for an example is SISU, which are all of our international service undergraduate courses, so international relations classes. This is just a very small example of all the classes that are going to come up. There's going to be tons and tons of classes for almost every single subject you search. So you want to kind of go to each subject you're interested in, scroll through, take note of which courses you might be interested in, read their descriptions, and kind of get an idea for what specifically topics you may want to study. When you are doing this, make sure you're jotting down or you're writing down what you see as the title and like the SISU 214, for example, Contemporary Latin America. If you write all of that down, it's going to help you in the next step when we talk about actually registering, which we'll cover in a few slides. You'll also see at the very, very top of our course schedule, we have SISU 212 FA3. FA3 is just a note for our general education program at American University. So what that actually means is it's Foundation Area 3. That is not a restriction. That is just a note for AU students, but you are more than welcome to take that class. So if you see FA3, FA1, FA5, just know that that is a term that's used by our students, but you don't need to be concerned with it, and it is not specifically a restriction for you. Now the section within that class may have a separate restriction that we've already covered, but the FA with a number itself specifically is open to you all, so you don't need to worry about it. Yeah, so you will register for your classes directly through your AU portal, so you will need to have created that and opened it and have access to it in order to get to the registration page, and we will cover that in a couple slides, so you'll see that you need to have that login information already done before you can register. With that said, your date to register won't be for a couple weeks, and we'll cover that later, but you have plenty of time to be creating that portal after you've paid your deposit and having all of that processed before you need to register for any of your classes. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is doing your course clearance.
So once you've kind of got an idea of what classes you're interested in taking at AU, you'll go into the registration clearance material on your AU Abroad at AU application, and it will come up with all these steps as indicated in number 1. So submit your $500 deposit, do your course selection, or read the course selection, do your online scheduled classes, and then you'll do this registration clearance form. If you've already been admitted to the program, you will have gotten the due date list, and you will see the due date list references the registration clearance form as being due tomorrow. That is not a hard set deadline in our case, but we would really like it by early next week if you've already been admitted. The reason for that is we actually go through every single person's registration clearance and double check if they meet the prerequisites for the class, and let you know if you can take the courses. So what happens is you would fill out number 2, this course clearance request form, with the information provided that you have looked up on the schedule of classes that Desiree just showed us. So you'll need to put in your name and your AUID, which if you've been admitted to the program already, you will have at the top of your admissions email. We want to know your home institution, and then at least 8 course choices that you are interested in taking. We have space for more than 8. As Desiree kind of already told you, it's unlikely that you will take 8 classes. You will probably take 4, maybe 5 classes, but we ask for at least 8 because it's very possible you may not get into your first choices. And we want you to be able to register for 12 credits, even if you are on the wait list from the beginning. So again, the first time you register, we want you to register for 12 credits. And what we do is we take this course clearance request form and look at each and every one of your classes and compare it to your transcript. And if you have taken the prerequisite, we clear you for the course, or we determine whether or not it is the right course for you. If you're currently taking a class this semester and you want to use it as a prerequisite for one of the classes you want to take next semester, you need to send us confirmation of your course enrollment for this semester in English. And you'll also need to bring your updated transcript with you in August. We do not have this semester's course registration for you in almost all cases, so we need some kind of evidence that you are actually taking that prerequisite this semester. Once we've determined exactly what is the right classes for you to take and what we can clear you for, we will send you an email that will look something like this. You can ignore a lot of this, but it will tell you that you must register for 12 credits. And again, even if you're waitlisted, you have to register for 12 credits. And it will tell you if you how many total credits you can register for. And then the more important part of this email says you have been cleared to take the following courses, and we will list them. Or that there's not prerequisites and you can register for them, or you don't meet the prerequisites, and then we will tell you why we feel you don't meet the prerequisites. This is the email that you will then use to actually register for your courses.
Okay, so after you have been through this process of looking at the course schedule and getting your courses approved by Sarah, Desiree, or Ethan, your next step is going to actually be putting those courses into your schedule and registering them. So we already had a question about this, but you are going to be using a new website called your MyAU portal to be registering for your classes. So this is different from your online application that you have been working with so far. Those of you who have received your application, or excuse me, your acceptance emails, you have been given the information about how to create your account. And for the rest of you, when you receive your acceptance email, the information is going to be there. So if you haven't seen that yet, don't worry about it. You will understand more when you get your email. So this is an example of what the home page for the MyAU portal looks like. This is actually something that you will be using throughout the semester to keep track of your information. We post our grades here and other academic information. the first thing from this homepage that you are going to need to click on for this process is the academic link, which I have a little red arrow pointing to on the left side. So that will take you to this academics homepage. Before we move on to the next page, I just want to point out the green arrow in the middle of the page. This is a student planning tutorial. So right now I'm going to go through the whole process and explain to you what you need to do to register for your courses. But I recommend taking a peek at this video. It is very clear and helpful in understanding how to use the Eagle Service and Registration system. And the reason this is important is actually because this system is new to the university. We have only had it for 1 semester. So you may come across some issues, and we will do our very best to help you. And if you do have a problem, just let us know. And either we will try and figure out the problem, or we will get you in contact with our technology services to make sure that everything goes well. So, in order to move on from this page, we're going to go to where the orange arrow is that says Eagle Service Student Planning. You will actually see the screen that's in the top left corner first, and you have 2 options. The first is Student Finance, which you do not need today, but you will probably use throughout the semester to check your account. And the second is the Student Planning button. So where the green arrow is, that's what we are going to click on, which is going to take us to the larger screenshot here, which is our schedule. Something to note is that while you're working through this process, this is actually a tool for you to plan out your schedule. So as you're working in here, it does not necessarily mean that you are already registered for those courses, and you actually can play around with this schedule before you are approved through the course clearance, but just be aware that you will not be able to actually register for a course until it is cleared by our office. So, this is the course catalog. Something to note is this is the exact same information that Desiree showed you from the other course schedule. So you can use either of them. We think that the one that Desiree showed you is a little bit more clear in terms of searching for classes. So once you've looked there, this process will be easier to do. So this is the course catalog within the Eagle Service portal. For our example today, we are going to be looking at anthropology, which is where the green arrow is pointing. All right, so when you click on the subject area for this example, we clicked on anthropology. There's going to be a very long list of classes. This is because courses are listed that are not offered this semester. So that's something just to keep in mind, and again, why we encourage you to look at the other course schedule beforehand. When you click on a class, it's going to show you a lot of different information. So I'm going to work through it with you based on these arrows. So as you can see at the top of this screenshot, this is Anthropology 215. The title of the class is Sex, Gender, and Culture. You can see that at the top, as well as the fact that this course is 3 credits. The first thing that you will want to note is arrow number 1, and that is telling you that there are 2 different sections of this course. So what that means is that there are 2 different times that you could take this class, and that you would be picking one or the other. So the first one is Sex, Gender, and Culture 001, and the second one, Sex, Gender, and Culture 002. How you can know what times the courses are is by looking at what I have pointed with arrow number 3, and that's showing you that the second section, 002, meets on Mondays and Thursdays from 2:35 to 3:50 p.m., and the first section is Mondays and Thursdays from 10:20 to 11:35. So based on your schedule and the courses that you would like to take, you're going to need to decide which of these 2 courses you would like to take. Something else to look at and keep in mind when you are looking at different options for different courses is arrow number 2, which is telling us how many seats are available in this course. So in this example, it says that there are 40 seats open, which means there's plenty of room for you to join this class. And that number could go anywhere from 40 all the way down to 1. It can also say wait list, which means that all of the open seats are full and you will go on a list to wait for a spot in that class. We're going to go over wait lists a little bit more, but just in case you do see that on this screen, that's what that means. And the last thing that you would want to look at is the instructor. So I've put a little pink circle around the instructor name. And for many of our students and American University students, this is something that they consider important. So you may want to look up this instructor on his or her American University bio page, or you could ask other students about that professor if they have had them. So those are the things that you would want to take into consideration as you're choosing your courses. And let's say that after we've looked over all of this information, we decide that we want to take the morning class, the one at 10:20. We would click on that link, add section to schedule, where arrow number 4 is pointing. Okay. So once we have added a course to our schedule, it's going to show up on that first screen that I showed you, which is your schedule for the week. This is kind of a nice tool for you to use to be able to understand when your classes are going to fall during the week. One of the first things that I want to point out is that most of your classes at American University are going to meet more than once during the week. And this might be different from some of your universities in that if a course is meeting, like this one, on Tuesday and Friday, you need to attend both sessions. They will be different and the teacher will cover different topics, so you do need to attend both times. You will also see that the information from the course that you've previously chosen is going to be in that box on the left-hand side. And as you add more courses, more boxes will be there. The reason it's yellow at this time is because we have not yet registered for it, so it is a planned course and not a registered course. And the last thing that I wanted to point out is this long yellow box on the top of the screen. We've had a couple of questions about when registration is going to happen. This is where you will be able to find your individual registration date and time. If you are to sign on to this right now, there is a good chance that you will not have a date or a time listed yet, but we expect that to be happening anytime now. And like we mentioned earlier, we think that registration will most likely be happening towards the end of April. So you do have a little bit of time to work on planning your courses, and once those dates have been set, they will be shown at the top of your planning page. When that day and time arrives, you will actually be able to register for the courses that you have planned on this schedule. And when you are ready to do that and your courses have been approved by our Abroad at AU office, you will be able to click the Register Now button, which I have circled and pointed a big red arrow at. Great. So now, once we have registered, all of our classes will turn green, which means that you have been approved to be in them, they have spots open, and you will be taking that course for the semester. All right, so now Desiree is going to tell you a little more about the wait list.
Okay, so as Ashley previewed for us, there are a number of seats that are given for each course. Once those seats are filled with students, the class will take what we call a wait list. It's a little bit self-explanatory, but I'll give you the definition anyway. The wait list is a list of students who are wanting or waiting to get into a closed course. So what that means is if you want to take a class and you see that it says waitlist instead of available seats, you will add yourself onto that list, and this will be the only way you can get into a class that is full. If a spot becomes available in that class, which means someone else has decided to not take that class or switched into a different section, something like that, then the space becomes available to the very first person on the list. If another spot opens up, it's then given to the next person on the list, and so on and so forth. So if you start in on a wait list and you are spot 3, that means that there's 2 people ahead of you and 3 people would need to leave that class in order for you to be offered a spot. Please note you're only allowed to be on 3 wait lists at any time, and you can only be on a wait list for one section of a specific course. So you want to make sure that you're really looking at which classes specifically you may want to be on the wait list for if your top preference classes are requiring waitlists. Hopefully you'll be able to get into your courses without too many waitlists, but it's important to be monitoring this closely. If you are offered a spot off of the waitlist, so as we said a couple dots up, if you are offered a spot, you'll get an email and you will be allowed to register for that course for 24 hours after the email is sent. 2 things to note. 1, that email is going to go directly to your AU student email. So once you create your portal and set your email up, you want to make sure you're monitoring that really closely, or you have forwarded that email to an email that you do check every day. And that's because you only have 24 hours and that email can go out at any time. So once that student drops and the space becomes available, the system automatically sends you an email letting you know to register. So you want to be checking that every day if you are, say, the first 3 spots of the wait list. So if you're spot 1, 2, or 3, definitely make sure that you are checking pretty regularly to make sure that if you're offered a spot, you are in fact getting to register for that class. If you miss registering, that will expire and you can put yourself back on the wait list, but you're going to then go to the bottom of the wait list. So you just want to make sure that you are following that closely. So in terms of actually being able to add yourself to the wait list, what will happen is, as we showed at the very beginning, you'll see, instead of seeing seats, you'll see waitlist. So we're looking here on our top left-hand picture. So we want to register for International Economics 002. There's a waitlist of 2 people. So what we're going to do is add that section to our schedule, just the same way we would do with a normal class. And then instead of clicking register, so when you click register up in the top corner like Ashley showed us, and all of our classes turned green, the ones that have a wait list are not going to turn green. They will stay yellow, and that means that that is not a course on your schedule yet because it doesn't have a spot available to you. What you'll need to do then is go back to those yellow courses and click on waitlist. By clicking this, it tells the system that you're interested in being placed on the list and potentially registering later if you want to do that. So make sure you're adding yourself to the waitlist, clicking add section to schedule, and just keep going through all these steps until you see definitively that you are in fact on the waitlist for that class. There are 2 different ways to see if you are on a waitlist and also what spot on the waitlist you are, and so we will talk about those to make sure that you are able to cover them. So the first one is actually right here on this screen, and when you go back to that main schedule page where you see your green classes, you'll have your yellow classes still on there, and then you'll be listed as waitlist 3, as you can see here. So that means you've added yourself onto the waitlist and you are currently 3rd in line. The second way to see your waitlist is going to be back on your MyAU portal. So if you don't want to log all the way into your Eagle service, you can just go to the main page of your portal, click on academics, and then click on my waitlisted sections, and that's going to bring up this page here, which will list all the courses that you may have waitlisted, as well as your status and your position in line on the class. Now, whether or not you'll be offered a spot off the waitlist really depends on the class and your spot. If you have any questions about that, you're welcome to ask us, but you definitely want to make sure that you're checking back, and if you are one of the first couple spots, so if you're position 1 or 2 especially, then make sure you're really actively looking at those and checking your email to see if you have been offered a space. Excuse me. So just because it happens, unfortunately, all the time, we will repeat again that you were only offered a space for 24 hours. So if you get an email saying you're allowed to register, you want to log into your Eagle service right away and add yourself into that class. American University does that so that as people are waiting for classes, there isn't a spot that's just sitting in someone's inbox and they're never going to register for it and they're holding that spot from someone else. So it is helpful, but you just want to make sure you're really mindful of the 24 hours in order to respond. So going back for just 1 minute about the point that you need to have 12 credits, the reason why we ask for you to do 8 classes is just in case maybe one of your top preferences does have a wait list. So if you are on a wait list for a class, that does not count towards your mandatory 12 credits. Those are not credits on your schedule until you are actually registered into that class. So what you need to do in the meantime is add yourself to the wait list and then choose another course from your list that you would be willing to have on your schedule as a placeholder. So going to those, that number 6 or 7 preference and adding that to your wait list just so that you're at that 12 credits. If you are then offered a spot off the wait list, you're more than welcome to register yourself into that class and drop one of your other ones, but you do need to make sure that you're having 12 credits at all times. If you are struggling to find 8 courses that you want to be approved for or that you might be interested in taking, we suggest going back to that schedule of classes and looking at some different topics, some elective courses, maybe talking to your advisor at your home institution and saying, you know, what are some other courses that I maybe can take that will count towards my degree, or what elective courses can I take that would count. There's a wide range of courses available at AU, and one of the really exciting opportunities of studying abroad is being able to maybe take an elective course or 2 if your schedule will allow it. Additionally, if you have still some questions, you're welcome to email us and maybe tell us what classes you have already chosen. If you already have 6, that kind of gives us an idea of what direction you're moving in terms of classes that you need or classes you're interested in, and we may have suggestions for you based on those other classes to kind of say, you know, because you've already chosen these 3, you might also be interested in this one that you maybe hadn't thought of because it's a topic maybe merged with another topic, and so it's housed in a different subject that you haven't checked yet. So if you really are struggling to find 8, definitely let us know and we can help suggest some for you. But really do your research and go through and see what elective courses or what outside the box courses you might be taking. And we have a lot of students who do fitness classes while they're here, or art classes, or take something just that they've always been interested in but maybe wasn't offered at their home university. So it is really a great opportunity to have variety, but if you really are struggling, definitely let us know and we can provide assistance as possible. All right. So moving on, kind of stepping away for a minute from pre-arrival things and talking about when you actually arrive, we do want to give you some details for orientation so you all can be planning on this and getting ready for your time in August when you've come to DC. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our schedule for orientation week. So if you've already received your acceptance email, you would have seen these dates. If not, they will be coming when your email does arrive. So the mandatory orientation sessions are going to be on August 22nd and August 23rd. For every single person in the Abroad at AU program, it is required that you are on campus for these full days. So you should not be making other plans or having friends in town or being distracted on August 22nd and 23rd because these are required mandatory sessions. Most of them, probably all of them, are actually detailed in your immigration that you need to attend them in order to be fully oriented to your campus as a student. So some of the things we'll be covering during those sessions will be document collection, immigration check-in, campus tours, AU IDs, and student services. So making sure you feel at home as an AU student and having all of those resources explained and kind of detailed for you. And then we'll be having representatives from our international office on campus doing an employment and visa regulation. So making sure you know the rules and some of the guidelines for being here as a J1 student. And then finally, American classroom and academic integrity. So really just giving you an example and some details about what it means to be a student in the United States and specifically what it means to be a student at American University, which may be quite different from your home institution experience, which is part of the wonderful opportunity in studying abroad. Throughout the entire week, starting on the 21st and running through mandatory orientation and following, we will have some optional activities. So we're going to have shopping trips. These will be local to campus as well as down in DC. So getting an opportunity to see what's available, some different neighborhoods on campus, as well as meet and greet socials. So we'll be having different activities for you to meet each other, as well as some really great AU students who have volunteered to help lead and to meet you guys as well that first week. We will also be having group dinner outings, so we'll be taking you to different restaurants and places to eat around campus in the local area, so you just get an idea for what's here. So make sure that if you want to participate in those, you're budgeting that into your week. Those are really a great opportunity to kind of just be able to talk and meet each other and as well hang out with AU students. And then finally, we'll be doing Snapshot DC, which is our favorite day of orientation as voted by students. And Ashley will be giving you some details about Snapshot DC.
Okay, so Snapshot DC is the final day of orientation. As Desiree mentioned, it is optional, but we highly recommend it, as do the Abroad at AU alums before you. So this is a special day. It is a scavenger hunt, a photo scavenger hunt that you do in small groups. And our students really, really enjoy it because it gives them it gives them a lot of opportunities. The first is to learn the public transportation system. As many of you know from your own cities, sometimes learning the transportation system can be daunting and a little challenging, so this is a great time for you, with the help of some current AU students, to learn how to get around and where the buses and the metro system go. The second is for you to meet some other students within the program as well as current AU students, and just kind of create those friendships before school gets started, so that once classes are started, you know a few friendly faces when you walk in the door. So what you need to do to sign up for Snapshot DC is to sign up in your Abroad at AU online application. This is going to be listed under the questionnaire section. And once you find that, all you need to do to sign up is just click yes that you would like to participate in the program. And the second part is that there is a small fee that is needed to participate in this program. And that covers your transportation for the day, as well as the cost of the closing event, which is in the evening. We'll have dinner and prizes. So the fee covers those two things. The other program that we wanted to tell you a little bit about today is the AU Buddy program. This is an opportunity for you to have a specific buddy, a current AU student that has most likely studied abroad through our office in another country. So these students are great resources to you, not only to answer questions about campus and life in DC, but they also have experienced study abroad. They know what it is like to visit other countries, to stay for an extended time in another country. So they're a great person for you to connect with, and again, just another friendly face to know on campus. Most of our students participate in this program and they really enjoy it. So how you will sign up for this program is that there's actually a new application within the online portal. So if you go to auabroad.american.edu, on the home page you will see this as a new option for an application to fill out. But don't worry, it's not as long as your application for the program. This is actually a very simple questionnaire that will take 5 minutes or so to fill out, and it's just about your interests and what you like to do. So using that information, we will work to match you with an AU student that likes the same kinds of things as you. If you like reading books, or you like music, or you like to cook meals together, we'll try and match you up with someone else who has your shared interests. finally, I wanted to tell all of you a little bit about the special events that we offer throughout the semester. These events are optional. We will host many throughout the semester. We usually have about 3 each month. So you can pick and choose from which of the events most interest you, and you're certainly welcome to go to all of them if you want to. So for example, we have events that we host on campus where we do team building events or just share food together and have a good time. We also attend AU sporting events, and we've had a lot of interest the past few semesters in going to professional sporting events. So as you can see in the picture here, this is a big group that went to a Nationals baseball game in DC. Up in the top right corner, we went ice skating with the students this year. We also oftentimes visit different museums within the city. And finally, we've had a lot of interest in the past in volunteering events. So this was a group that went and volunteered at a very popular organization in DC and had a great time preparing a meal.
Okay, and we're almost finished up here, but we just want to make sure you know how to get in touch with us if you have any questions going forward. We are going to have a little question and answer section after this slide, but before that, again, if you have any questions, with the exceptions of those student health center questions, really just email us first. And even if you have our individual emails, it's probably easier to get a quicker answer at abroad@au@american.edu. Definitely still like us on Facebook, or still like us on Facebook. We're at American University Abroad at AU. And follow us on Instagram. You can see the hashtag, etc., etc. Also, please become my friend on Facebook. It's Sarah B. Harlow, and this is a work account for me. It's not like I'm going to go spy on you by any means. So the benefit to becoming my friend is I can add you to our secret special 1617 Abroad at AU group. I have not yet created that group, but I will within the next month or so. And so we will, if you become my friend, I will automatically add you into that group. And specific link to my Facebook page is in the acceptance emails. Okay. Before we start on any of the questions that are coming in, there was one thing that I wanted to mention. If you're struggling to create your MyAU portal, please note that after you pay your $500 deposit, it does typically take 24 to 48 hours for our system to have that recorded properly. So don't try to create your portal immediately after you've paid your $500. It may take a few days. If you've waited the couple days and it's still not creating the portal as you expect it should, please email us at abroad@au@american.edu to let us know. If you can include screenshots of what you've input and what it is saying, that would be extremely helpful. Sometimes it has to do with your deposit. Sometimes it has to do with the way you're entering your name in. Or birth date or something like that. And it's so much easier for us to follow up on it if we do have screenshots.
All right, so our first question here is, for how long does the J1 visa allow us to stay in the United States? So as we said earlier in this presentation, your exact visa dates will be the length of the semester. So they will start on August 29th, which is the first day of classes, and if you are here for one semester, they will expire on December 19th, which is the final day for exams, and if you are here for the whole year, then they will expire on May 9th, which is the final day of exams. In those visa dates, you have a 30-day grace period on both sides. So you are able to enter the United States up to 30 days before your visa begins, and you can stay in the United States 30 days after it has expired. The first day you can enter the United States for everyone, whether you're here for one semester or the whole academic year, will be July 30th, 2016. You should not plan to arrive in the United States before this day. This will be the first day that immigration will let you through on your J-1 visa documents. Additionally, you are welcome to stay for the extra 30 days after, but once your visa has expired, you cannot leave and come back into the United States. So after December 19th or after May 9th, do not make plans to go to Canada for a weekend and then come back to the United States before flying home. You can be in the United States for those 30 days, but you need to be in the United States for those 30 days. All right, our next question is, can we already buy plane tickets before we get the visa? Prices will go up quite fast. Yes, if you are definitely coming to American University and you know you want to be here on August 16th and go to New York City before coming in and moving into your apartment for orientation, you are welcome to do that. We just ask that you please keep in mind that you need to arrive after July 30th and that you should not plan to leave Washington, D.C. Until after December 19th. You may have finals on that day, and in the United States, it's required that you sit your exam on exactly the day it's being offered. So if you want to buy your tickets now, we do suggest that you do them for sometime, kind of the week after December 19th. With that said, you won't know your exact final schedule until you get here and you get your syllabi for your courses, but you definitely don't want to have a flight out on the 16th only to find out that you need to be here in DC for an exam on the 19th.
With that said, if you have not been admitted to our program yet, which again, we hope to get the rest of those out in the next few days. But if you have not been admitted yet, please hold off on taking or on purchasing your ticket until you do get that acceptance email. We have a question about, I'm interested in taking 4 courses, but the total credits is 15. Is this possible, or can I only register for 12 credits? Again, this is going to be dependent on what your home institution is. Everybody is required to do at least 12 credits. Some students will be allowed to do more than that. And we can talk about that individually based on what your university is or where you're from. In some cases, it's also possible to do more than 12 credits, but you may have to pay additional money. So again, we can discuss that one-on-one with you. Okay, with the J-1 visa, if we selected the I-20 form, can we change it to the DS-2019 form? Lucky for you, we would have seen that on our CFIS forms, and we have already changed it for you, and you do not have to do anything.
All right, the next question is it possible to travel to near countries in the U.S. like Mexico or Cuba? Will there be problems with entering back? So that depends on 2 things. One, when you get your visa individually, it will be determined on your visa how many times you are allowed to enter the United States on that visa. Sometimes it will be 1, which means when you come in August, that's the only time you can use that visa to get in which case you would not be able to leave and go someplace else. In most cases, it will be M, which stands for multiple entry. So hopefully if you are checking that and looking, making your plans ahead of time, you'll see on your visa whether it's 1, 2, or multiple entry. That's going to be determined by your home country, where you're coming from, and the U.S. consulate and the regulations for that country. It's not determined by anything we do on our end. So that's going to be kind of the first thing you need to check and make sure that if you only get 1 entry to the United States, you're going to have used it when you came here for class. The second thing you need to check is that you are going to a country that is approved, first of all, for you to go to without your own visa. So you need to make sure that there is legal visa travel to that country based on your home university or your home country where your citizenship is, where your passport's from. That could be different for everyone. So you want to definitely make sure you're looking that up. Specifically for Cuba,
there may be some regulations.
Yep.
Because
That's
there
new
aren't that
water.
many. Since Cuba, technically most Americans are not allowed to travel to Cuba.
There's not flight.
There aren't that many flights available. Of course, most of your countries you can travel there, but there aren't that many flights to and from Cuba necessarily from the United States. So that is really you need to make sure you meet all of those regulations as far as what that is and that there's actual flights available. As far as actually traveling though, if you meet all those other requirements, you can travel during the semester. You will need certain signatures and things like that on your documents, which you can absolutely get on our end. But the one exception is, as Desiree mentioned, if it's after the semester is over, you cannot exit the United States and then try to fly out of the United States when you come back. So for instance, if on December 20th, after classes are over, you want to go to Mexico and spend a week there visiting your long lost cousin, and then you want to fly back to Germany, and you want to come back into the United States for a couple days and then go back to Germany, you will not be allowed to enter back on your J1 visa. So in that case, you should plan to just leave from your cousin's house in Mexico. So yes, you most likely will be able to travel outside the United States once you're here, just not after the semester is over. Any additional questions? And again, we'll go over a lot of this at orientation. So those very specific, can I travel while I'm here type questions, we will certainly be able to answer at orientation, which is part of the reason we make orientation mandatory, so we can answer those types of visa questions. Additionally, as Desiree previously mentioned, we will be sending out this as a video, this presentation as a video, so you can go back to any part of this to review what we've said.
All right, it looks like we are good. If you have any further questions,
Yeah, so for the students who do not yet have their admissions letter, we hope to expect to get those out to you early next week. So yes, yeah. But, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now that Marnix has had his question answered, we are good to go. If you have any other questions that come up or you think of in the next week or a couple weeks or as you move through some of the readings and things like that, of course, you're always welcome to email us and we will get back to you. But thank you all for joining us, and we wish you a great rest of your term wherever you are, and we look forward to seeing you in the fall. So thanks again, and we will meet you soon.